What if I told you guys that you can increase the average profit of crafting a specific item by as much as 10,000 gold? Would you think I was crazy? Well, I'm not. There's a way to do it. You can't do it infinitely, and it doesn't work on every item, and 10,000 gold is probably the extreme outlier. But there's a little tip that you might not be aware of, or a way to craft. So obviously, by now, if you've been playing the expansion for a while, you'll have a bunch of Artisan's metal. Well, don't have that much on this character, but I do have 2,000 gold on my main, or 2,000 metal on my main. I have 6,000 spread out across my character. You get this every time you gain profession knowledge. And you can use this to craft illustrious insight, which is this little finishing reagent, which increases your recipe skill by 30. Or if you break it down into lesser, you get 5 for lesser recipes. That also increases your skill by 30. Now, why is this so good? Well, for items where you can get within 30 skill of guaranteeing quality 3, and if there's a large price difference between quality 2 and quality 3, then you're in business, right? Then you can guarantee quality 3 for as long as you have metal. And if this is a character you've played since launch, then you probably have a lot of metal that you want to use. And this is the way to go about it. There's also some other things you can do with metal, but this is the main profit increasing thing. Now, what kind of items is this going to work for? It's going to work for items where you can get to within 30 skill of the recipe difficulty. So probably it's hard for stuff that's difficulty 400 or above, but it is possible for those as well, depending on the profession. But one example, and the 10,000 gold example, is this one, the Shadow Flame Tempered Armor patch. So as we can see, my leatherworker is a little bit behind the times. I'm missing 12 skill here and 20 skill here, so I can get about 12 plus 17. So I'm missing 29 here, and then the insight will get me the rest of the way. So yeah, I just need to swap this for a quality 3 material, then we're 308, and then I'd get about 30 skill here and about 30 skill from the insight, which would put me at guaranteed quality 3 for this recipe. Obviously right now it's showing less profit. This is showing 700, but if I had the right profession tools, which I'm missing, then we can go into simulation mode and we can just set my skill. I'll set it to 360. Boom. 9,000 gold on average per craft. And I don't even have max multi-craft and resourcefulness, and you can see that every point of resourcefulness would increase my profit by another 13. This one is multi-craft inspiration. Inspiration is completely worthless for this specific case. So we could probably push this up to past 10,000 gold profit per. So if you have a lot of insight on the leatherworker and you have this recipe, or you're considering getting this recipe, then be aware that this is something people can be doing to generate only quality 3 ones, and then they don't have to bother trying to sell off the quality 2 ones, which sell but are a lot slower to sell than the quality 3. Now, obviously, getting to this isn't something you can't do this for every item, and unlocking this little box here at all requires you to finish the related, typically to finish the related node. So for Shadow Flame Tempered Armor patch, you need to have maxed out Elemental Mastery. This is where you're allowed to put in the illustrious insight. This is the case for pretty much every profession. It's located near the end of the tree, or near the end of a specialization for a specific item. It varies a little bit, of course. For weapons and armor, it's usually in the middle part or in the base part, but in some cases, for gems, it's in the last part. For enchants, which is another interesting one, particularly the weapon enchants. This is something you can use them. For enchants, you need to have the final 10 points in the specific elemental nodes, so like the Sophic node for Sophic Devotion. Then you also need to have all of the other skill bonuses in the entire tree to get close enough. But you can at least get into hidden skill value territory with that, which means that you can probably get extremely close, if not past 425. So if you're not spec'd the right way, then this won't work, obviously, and it's also not going to work in every item. As I said, requires you to have an item that is inspiration crafted that you sell on the auction house. Well, not necessarily. You can use this on stuff like the Primalist gems from jewel crafting, and just charge more for a guaranteed quality 3. than you would for people rolling the dice, and then they can choose themselves if they want to roll the dice with multiple primal or multiple quality 2 limited diamonds, or if they're just going to go for one quality 3, pay you a little bit more and get it done in one craft guaranteed. And yeah, if you find these kind of cases where you see use Craft Sim, this add-on, if you're not familiar with that, there's going to be a link in the video description to my video on this add-on right here. Just look for items here where there's a big gap to quality 3. So here we can see that there's a 10,000 gold gap. So then you know that, okay, it's almost profitable with the current stats. Okay, so what happens if I get only quality 3? Then yeah, we're gonna crank profit. Very obvious, because then you're increasing the average value of the finished items by not quite 10,000, like 8,000 or something like that, but depending on your inspiration rate. But then you just know that, okay, yeah, this is gonna slam. Same logic sort of applies to selling crafting orders for weapons, but for the most part people are just willing to roll the dice. It's not that expensive to recraft, so they'll just roll the dice on recrafting, and they're fine with that. Now, the other thing you can do, because obviously this means that metal is a lot more valuable on certain professions than it is for other professions. So the types of items that this is best for, in my opinion, is items that use the lesser illustrious insight, because then you get 10 artisans metal per 30 skill. Whereas if you have to use the big one, like for gear, this one costs you 50 artisans metal, so you're not going to be able to do that too many times. But lesser illustrious insight, that's used for stuff like gems, certain enchants, certain trade skill goods, optional reagents. So those are the types of items, things you sell on the regional auction house where you can get to skill 30. Obviously, there's a reason why I'm logged into my leatherworker. This Shadowflame tempered armor patch is by far the most relevant recipe to do this with right now. But there could be others. The new enchant, for instance, I don't have that unlocked. I haven't checked that. But anything where there's a good price difference, this is something you'll want to keep your eyes out for, and utilize the insight. Now, to make sure you have the insight on the right characters, or the Artisan's metal, there are some tricks you can do, particularly if you don't have them maxed out. The main one is just to make sure that when you're crafting your profession items on a character that has recipes that you want to take advantage of this, then you pay someone to include the Artisan's metal. Find someone in trade chat who has a lot of metal, or send orders to your own characters. Like, I have a ton of metal on my DK. I have 2,000 metal. So on my alchemist that I set up at the beginning of the patch, I would just send a personal order to myself with no metal included to get the alchemy tool crafted for myself, because I don't need the metal on my DK, but I needed metal on my new character to get all of the profession tools and stuff. So yeah, now that you just find someone who's willing to sell you the metal, you'll probably have to overpay. And then you have to consider if it's worth it or not. Obviously, in this case, you're getting about 10,000 gold per 10 metal if you're crafting this one. So that would value your metal at a very, very high rate. Means you'd be willing to pay to pay 30 times that. For this, you'd be willing to pay 300,000 gold as a crafting feat for someone to include the Artisan's metal, and you'd be economically equivalent. Probably you shouldn't do that, but the value is potentially very high for metal when you use it with illustrious insight, if you have the right build. Obviously, the other side, make sure you get all the metal you can every week. So the most important source of metal comes from getting profession knowledge. So you want to do your profession knowledge stuff, do all of your crafting weeklies, and make sure you do this quest from Thomas Bright. He gives you metal depending on how much rep you have with Artisan's Consortium, so just make sure you complete this. It's 150 at max rep. And if you're close to getting to the next rep tier, I was not. I still have quite a ways to go to esteemed on this character. Then you just wait until after that, and then you want to do the weeklies. Do the kill weeklies if you can. Do the turn-in craft items and turn-in weeklies and the crafting orders weeklies, definitely. And then if you have time after that, then you can go do the other weekly stuff, like looting the looting the disturbed dirt and expedition shovel stuff, and farming the items that drop from mobs. And obviously also big shout out, Dragon Shards of Knowledge are absolutely huge because they give you 50 metal a pop. So if you find any of these, then you want to go ahead and slam those in right away. That's a ton of metal. So they are very, very valuable. They can be farmed for. It's extremely slow. I wouldn't advocate that unless you have a lot of time on your hands, and if you do, then you can just look up a guide on farming dragon shards. It's mostly around killing rares, picking up treasures, and that kind of stuff, and then you get a reasonable chance of getting, if you're gonna get them at a slow but reasonable rate. But yeah, prioritize the weeklies first because they also give rep, particularly the new weeklies for Loam Niffin. If you have a level 70 character, this Leatherworker is not level 70, so I don't have the Niffin quests. But they are the most valuable ones, the Loam Niffin quests, because of the Barter Bricks as well, which gives you access to recipes that you might not have unlocked yet. So yeah, that's it. That's the trick. Definitely take advantage of it if you can, if you have any recipes where you see that this is a possibility, and be aware of it anyway. If you don't have the opportunity, you should be aware. Might be a reason why people are crafting something that just doesn't look profitable. Maybe they're using insight to guarantee quality 3, which means that they don't have to consider the value of quality 2 items at all, and that's also going to make quality 3 cheaper, because you don't have to recoup the losses of crafting tons of quality 2 items. So in some markets, this might be the only way to profit. And if it is, then make sure you utilize the insight you have to gain some gold every week.